Hey guys, what's up? Your old buddy Tim back with my old buddy Thom.
Hey, buddy.
It's the Entrepreneur Code Show.
It is. For the full installment.
we need a theme song. We need a bouncy theme song. Got anything in mind?
No. You know who we should call?
Work on that. Scotty, you think Scotty could come up with?
He always comes up with
He's
something.
the guy that came up with the Thom Slick.
He did. He
thing.
pulled that right out of the old archives.
I don't remember what he used to play for me when I worked at that radio station. It wasn't anything as clever as Thom Slick.
Lawrence Welk.
Not a lot of songs have Tim in them. Anyway, hey, this is the program where we do our best to help you crack the entrepreneur code so you can start, run, grow, and prosper from your own business. What are we talking about today?
I think it would be fun to talk about understanding your market.
You think that would be fun?
I think it would be a hoot.
Boy, entrepreneurs are so easily entertained. All right, well, let's talk about that. Understanding your market. What do you mean exactly?
Well, there are a lot of things that make up your market, right? Your the customer that you're trying to reach.
Yeah, someone to sell to.
And look, I'm going to just throw this out there. If the answer to who is your target market is, well, everybody needs it. Yeah, that ain't it. You got to focus a little bit.
Can you think of any product that everybody really needs?
No.
And I'm not talking novelty stuff, but I mean, what's something that everybody really needs?
So the Snuggie is out.
I still have Snuggies.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what's your point there, that if you think, okay, I'm going to come up with this product or service and everybody, the world is going to be my customers, I'm not right?
Well,
do you like that face?
It's not that you're not right. It's that you're not focused. Because
explain.
Sure, I'll be happy to, young Skywalker. So many people, well, let's say millions of people might be able to benefit from your product or service, but you can't, especially when you're just getting started, you can't market to millions of people.
Right.
You need to find that niche where it is beyond a passing desire and it's a burning need for them. And then you find out how to market to that segment, get really good at that, and then expand a little bit.
So, well, let's talk about how do you go about understanding your market? Because I think you are right. A lot of new entrepreneurs will jump out there and say, well, everybody wants one of these, or everybody needs one of these. Everybody will buy one of these. You and I both know that's not the case. So how might one go about understanding who their market really is? Who is their avatar, as you call it?
Right.
What is the depth of this market? How many times am I going to sell to them? All the stuff that you and I, as experts, understand go into a market. But if I'm just starting out, what are my first steps?
I heard you rattling off all those, and
I wasn't rattling.
Well, in a nice way. You were rattling in a nice way.
All right.
But it reminded me. I was asking somebody questions like that at one point. They came to me for coaching. I started asking those questions, and he's like, I don't know all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's my point.
Right.
We, in a lot of respects, we don't know what we don't know. So to think that we might, at some point, gain this magical understanding of everything that describes our ideal customer is kind of fallacious on its face. But,
fallacious?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a big
good.
word.
I'm going to look that one up, and I don't think it means what I thought it meant, but.
Well, that's a different word.
Yeah. You said it, I didn't. So what you're saying, let me see if I can fallaciously boil this down for you, is a lot of times entrepreneurs will come up with an idea without fully understanding the market. And usually it's because they haven't taken the time to research the market or really find out what's there.
Right. Exactly.
You could have just said that.
Well, what I was saying before I got so unceremoniously derailed.
There's another big word.
So I should keep it to 3 syllables.
You forget who you are partnering with here.
Just because we might not be able to find out everything doesn't mean we shouldn't try.
Well, that's the point that I think is very important to make. Is you and I both had people say this when we were in coaching with them, when we start asking them the specifics of the market. Well, I haven't been able to find that data. You probably haven't looked.
Right.
So speak to the importance of, again, the steps you have to take to really know your market before you jump out there and try to sell to them.
Well, so that comment, you're right. I've heard it a lot also. That comment indicates on its face that you're just trying to Google your research. Right? And I just can't find anybody who's asked these questions before. Well, guess what? You might have to ask these questions. It might not have been asked, and it probably has, but and you just can't find it. But the easiest way to do this is to come up with a description of who you think your ideal customer is, and just go buy them a cup of coffee.
Yeah. Talk about that. You call them the avatar.
Yes. So
explain what that is and how you determine who that person is.
Well, if you're already in business or you already have customers, think of the very best customer. If I could have 100 more of these, this is who I would want, and use them as a model. If you're not in business, don't have customers yet, do your best to guess, and use that as a starting point. In either case, whether you're modeling off an existing customer or you're creating one, an imaginary customer, it has to be a starting point. Then you ask questions and you refine it over time as you go.
And one of the first things you can do to do that is to break down, excuse me, the wants and needs of your imaginary customer. If you are selling widgets, we're going to call this a widget. I've invented this, Thom. It's amazing. Everybody needs one. Thom is going to say, tell me about your market. Tell me about, I'm going to sit down and imagine my avatar or my perfect customer, if you will, and I'm going to tell you why they need this.
Okay.
What is it going to do to affect their life? What's it going to do to make their life better? To me, that's the first step in understanding who your market is understanding who your perfect customer is.
Yeah, and I agree with that. The key where a lot of people get hung up, though, is they build an understanding of why someone would want to buy this.
There you go.
And they stop there. Just because I know why you would want to buy it is not good enough.
Right.
The next step is to understand how I meet you where you are when you need this. Because people are not looking for a house painter when they're at the movies, right?
This is true.
They look for a house painter when the house needs to be painted. So how can I offer my services when and where you need it? And, the best example that I've come up with is if you're trying to reach parents of upper elementary age kids, right? Then that might be an okay time to buy some ad space on the back of Little League jerseys. But if you're trying to reach empty nesters, probably not the right time to buy Little League jerseys. So it's not just about knowing the benefit statement of your product. It's also about knowing how this fits into your ideal customer's life, when and where they need it, and how it solves the problem.
And another question to ask is, why do they need it? Why is that person your potential customer? And if you can't answer that, to the most finite detail, you don't know.
Right. Any question that you don't know is an opportunity to learn more. And anytime, you and I both do this, but
I'm taking my widget back.
Okay. We'll ask a lot of
These
questions.
things are expensive.
Yeah. We'll ask a lot of questions, but when somebody says, yeah, I don't know, about half the time they get offended. Like, well, I don't know that.
Yeah.
We'll go find out. It's not a test.
Yeah. When you and I were both teaching classes together, our big thing was, I don't know is not an answer.
Oh.
If I ask you a question,
it goes on the list of things to go find out. And if you've got that ideal customer, just, I don't know, but give me just a second. What do you think? It's not any more complicated than that. And I think one of the things that hangs people up is we've gotten this far in life and we've been taught that there's a correct answer for everything. I just have to find it. And in reality, in the real world where the rest of us live, that's not always true. There's the best answer you can come up with, and then you just have to proceed imperfectly with the answer that you have.
And that's not to be confused with an answer you make up.
No.
Just to fill a blank.
Well, and you know, when you're talking about your ideal customer, probably the worst thing you can use as a model for your ideal customer.
Yourself? Yeah.
You know, so what's got two thumbs is the worst model for my customer.
Mm-hmm.
This guy. Right? Because we make assumptions when we do that.
Right.
We assume that everybody believes the way that we do. We assume that everybody will pay the price point we would. And assumptions are always bad.
Yeah. So the first step to understanding, I was reaching for the widget, it's like our safety blanket now. The first question then to understanding your market is to understand your customer, your avatar. What's the next step? Once you know who you're going to sell it to and why they're going to buy it and this sort of thing. And there are, you can break that even down on how often will they buy, how much will they pay. You know, you've got to really get granular in your market on a lot of things. But what's the next in your mind?
Yeah, just in the person, there's demographic, psychographic, behavioral. Then there's how frequently, how much will they pay. That there's a lot. There's a never-ending series of things that you can find out. I think the next thing you want to look at is who else is playing in the space.
Who's your competition? Yeah,
and the important thing to remember is, your competition doesn't necessarily have to be another company that's doing the same thing you are.
Right.
Your competition, the way I define competition is it's whoever's getting the dollar today that you want tomorrow.
That's very good.
Thank you.
Every now and then, Thom pulls one out of somewhere that makes me go, I wonder where he heard that.
Wait a minute. I can have an original thought.
Well, explain that, though, because you can have direct competition, you can have indirect competition, you can have competition coming at you from areas that, thanks to the internet, you never had to think about before. So talk about that when you are looking at the competitive part of your market. What are some of the things you need to be keenly aware of, and what are some of the things that you might have to prepare for, because there are so many spheres of competition now.
Oh, and they can change so fast.
Right.
I mean, kind of the go-to story here, there's two of them. Southwest Airlines, when they launched, they weren't trying to compete with other airlines. They were competing with Greyhound because they wanted to do inexpensive point-to-point transportation, which is still their model. Yeah. And the other one is Starbucks. When they launched, their competition was the living room. And I can make a cup of coffee at home a lot cheaper than I can at Starbucks, and I don't have to put pants on. So that's an added bonus.
You don't ever want to go to Starbucks with Thom. It's not pretty.
Hey, at least it's exciting.
Seriously, I really like the Southwest Greyhound analogy because it's one I've never thought of.
Yeah.
They weren't competing with other airlines. They weren't competing with the mode of transportation.
Correct.
They were competing with the result.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And so, you know, Amazon.
I've learned something.
Well, thank you.
Not sure what I'll do.
There we go. We should wrap right now.
Let's stop before he says anything else.
Amazon's a great example. You know, they marketed themselves as the world's largest bookstore. And then when they started cutting into the profits of the other bookstores, the bookstores went after them saying, well, wait a minute, now you're not really a bookstore. Instead of, you know, the Barnes and Nobles and the Books A Million adapting, they tried to fight it.
Right.
And
killed themselves.
We know who won that battle, right? So, you know, understanding the competitive landscape, where people are getting their solution today and where they might get it tomorrow. Amazon is a phenomenal example because they started selling books and now they're literally the convenience store for the world. And I can get almost anything from almost anybody day after tomorrow.
Yep. And now everybody's playing catch up with Amazon.
Right. Everybody wants to be the next Amazon, the next Uber, the next whatever. So, and we also have to remember that not solving the problem is an option for our customer also. Right? You can say, well, this is the only solution in the market, so I can charge whatever I want. But the customer still has the option to say, yeah, it's still too much. I'm just going to live with it.
Yeah.
You know, the price of the solution exceeds the cost of my pain. And so they just don't do anything.
Yeah. You could actually create a solution, but price yourself or not offer enough value to have a customer pay for it. When you are looking at the market, let's go back to competition for a minute, and you've got the direct competition. Let's do, my favorite example was always Hallmark cards.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hallmark sells cards, but so does every drugstore, every grocery store, every kid raising money for camp, the internet, cards.com. The competition is just fierce. There comes a point where you have to quit worrying about all of those spheres of competition and really just worry about the one that threatens you or that you got to compete with the most.
Yeah.
Because you can't compete with them all.
No, and I don't think you should necessarily try to compete with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of be aware of what's going on in the market. Be aware of the other players, what they're, do a SWOT analysis on them. What are their strengths and weaknesses?
Mm-hmm.
Compare them to your strengths and weaknesses. Hallmark is a great study because when they felt like they had topped out in the greeting card market, they just invented new holidays.
I know. Today is National Prison Uniform Shirt Day. Here's your card.
We need to pick it up. I got to get back from my hearing.
I tell you, his parole officers. I actually saw a post on Facebook the other day, and this dude went, "Just had my final meeting with my PO, Freedom," his parole officer, and he was posting on Facebook. Anyway, all right. So let's move on. We talked a little bit about the avatar. We've talked about competition. Let's talk about other things in the marketplace like distribution. How are you going to get your product into the hands of that avatar?
Well, and I think a lot of times that's something we overlook. And when somebody wants to argue with me, which happens frequently,
it's a lot.
No, really, you don't understand. Millions of people do need this product. I'm like, okay, how are you going to get it to them?
Right.
And think about that. You can be, that's one of the things, one of the most direct ways that Amazon was able to beat the other booksellers was they figured out distribution, and they were willing to pay a price for distribution that their competition couldn't stomach because their competition had to keep the bricks and mortar facilities open. Amazon didn't have that, so they could pay more for distribution. Until they, and then they went in and just, juggled the whole thing with the Prime offer. And now everybody does a Prime or premium type membership.
That brings up a question. Is Amazon a retailer or are they just a gigantic sales and distribution company? Because their distribution is amazing. Amazing.
I think they are.
And they don't sell a lot of the things they sell, they don't really sell.
Right. They're not their thing.
They're not their products. They're selling them for other sellers, but they are being distributed out through their process. It's just amazing.
They are a product arbitrage company.
They sell it, mark it up a little bit, and handle the shipping.
Right.
Yeah.
And they take a few pennies off of every package. And, when you're doing a couple of 100 million packages a month.
It's a lot of pennies.
It's a lot of pennies.
Yeah.
So they're not, what problem have they solved, right? Well, they have a multifaceted solution. So they have created a single shopping face for the consuming public. They have created an actually fairly easy to enter market when you have a product. And they mask all of that to everybody. Now, when you go in, if you go into Amazon, you look for a product, you might see it listed 2 or 3 times at 2 or 3 different prices. Like, what the heck's going on? There's 2 or 3 different sellers. Some of them are Prime.
Selling under the Amazon umbrella.
Right. They all show up in the store, but they're like different wholesalers. So
really, those guys are really suppliers to Amazon.
Yes. But they are customers of Amazon also, because what they are purchasing from Amazon, the problem that Amazon is solving for them is, to your point, market access and distribution.
That's why a lot of new companies are creating companies that use Amazon as their supply chain and distribution point.
Right. I mean, they are the #1 customer of the United States Postal Service.
Which they'll eventually just take over.
They'll buy it.
Yeah.
I mean, they've already put delivery vehicles. I mean, you think, look at what they're doing, right? They purchased Whole Foods and immediately put product lockers in Whole Foods. So now, for this whole problem, and I love the way that they solve problems that other people just dismiss, right? Like we've been dismissive of this problem of package theft. Well, they just bought Whole Foods and solved the problem.
Yeah.
We'll just drop it off at Whole Foods. You come by and pick it up. Okay. Well, now it's not stolen anymore. Now, what's interesting to me is, wait a minute. I bought it from Amazon, so I didn't have to go to the store.
Right.
But now I have to go to the store to pick it up. I don't know if that's a perfect solution, but the whole distribution model, the arbitrage model for sale by or FBO. All of those programs solved problems that we didn't even realize we had.
FBA, for sale by Amazon.
Yeah, FBA.
Basically is a program where a wholesaler, could be us.
Right.
Let's say we order 10,000 of these lovely chipped cups from Taiwan or whatever, which you can get from thomrigsby.com, by the way.
Yes.
So if we had pallets and pallets of those, rather than sell them out of the back of our car or open our own shop, we could apply to the Amazon FBA program, which is really hard to get in now. But if we are accepted, we just ship our pallets of goods to a Amazon warehouse and they do the distribution. So back to the original subject, we were talking about the marketplace. Okay. Understanding your marketplace. We talked about the avatar. We talked about competition. We've talked about distribution. What is left? What are some other things we need to think about?
Well, I think maybe the last big thing to think about is how much cash is there in your market?
Yeah.
Right. We tend to price our products and try to position our products and services based on what we want to make off of them.
Which is backwards.
Yeah. If we really think about it in the forward way, we look at what the customer is willing to pay to solve that problem. But then there's a step beyond that, which you're now intimately familiar with in the market that you're working in. It's not just what am I willing to pay for it, but how much cash can I get access to actually spend on it? I might be willing to pay $100, but I don't have $100, right? So understanding, kind of what the pricing model is. And so what I encourage business owners to do is figure out what it costs you to deliver the product or service, multiply that by 2. That gives you a starting point. And then look in the market. See who your competitors are, how they've priced and positioned themselves, and then make adjustments. You don't want to be the highest price. You don't want to be the lowest price. Generally speaking,
it really, if you do it that way, if you price that way, it's simple math. I mean, there are a variety of ways to come up with a price for a product. But let's say, we're not the first people to sell widgets. There is a very active widget market out there, and we know about what this widget will go for in the retail market. Let's say it's $10.
Okay.
The question then becomes, what does it cost us to produce said widget?
Yeah.
And then what are our costs on top to market and deliver said widget? Right. And then whatever is in there is our little piece. Right. The question then becomes, can we live on our little piece?
Exactly.
Can we start a good viable business on our little piece?
So there's another element to that, though, and I call it perceived value range. So if we were talking and you said you were in the market for a used car, and I said, well, you're in luck.
I happen to have
one. You said, great. How much you want for it? It's $150. What's your next question going to be?
Will you take 100?
That's the first person that's failed my test.
Well, you have to consider the source here. Why is it $150?
Yes. What's wrong with it?
See, that would be my second question.
So what's wrong with it? Why is it only $150?
Right.
The reason that question comes up is because we have this perceived value range of a used car, and it's more than $150. So if you are outside the perceived value, either over or under, create questions.
Mm-hmm.
If same car, instead of saying 150, said 1,500, I said, well, tell me more about it.
Right.
Right. Because that's inside that acceptable range. If I said 15,000, I'm like, whew,
yeah.
Well, okay, I'm looking for something cheaper. You don't even want to hear anymore about
right.
it. Same with houses, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
oh, yeah.
There's in this many rooms and this zip code and this goes on, this is what I'm expecting to pay for it. And you can price it however you want, but nobody's going to buy it if you're over or under on those things. So cash, it's actually moving around in the market, that perceived value range, what your competitors are moving their products and services for, all those things kind of play into the market space also. But
the thing about it is, though, if this widget, everybody knows this widget's $10.
Right.
We're not going to jump out there and try to charge 12 or 15 without somehow improving the widget so that it is of greater value to the consumer, who will then justify paying $15 for our widget.
Right. Maybe we say that case is an RFID case, right? A blocking RFID blocking case. Oh, okay. Well, that's worth $2 to me. First of all, is it worth $2 to me?
Right.
But yeah, you have to create something to change the perceived.
And you have to know all of that going in before you start this. Part of it, the process of understanding your market intimately is, again, understanding the consumer in the market, how you're going to get the product in their hands, what it's going to cost you to deliver, and what you're going to make at the end of the day. And it really comes down to simple math, and you can't really tweak the math too much. You're going to make what you're going to make.
Let me put one more thing in there, and then it's probably close to time for us to wrap up here. While you can price yourself off the top end of the market, I really strongly encourage you not to try and value price your product.
Meaning what?
Don't play on the bottom end of the scale, because as soon as you begin competing on price, nothing else about your product matters, and you've commoditized your product. And as soon as somebody can deliver it cheaper than you, you're out of the game.
Also, when you compete on price and you get locked into the bottom, you are forever known as you're the lower end of the quality scale.
Right. Dirt cheap is
whether
always
you are
going to
or
be
not.
dirt cheap.
Right. Exactly. All right. Final words on knowing your market? Are we out of words? I think we're good. We said a bunch. You said a bunch of big ones, which I'm impressed.
Have you ever noted the irony that monosyllabic is more than one syllable?
You know, I had a friend who was from Monosyllabia once. Couldn't understand a damn word he said. If they want to get in touch with you to learn more, Thom is a coach. He is an entrepreneur. He is a mentor. How do they get a hold of you?
It's really difficult.
It's written on the side of your cup.
Here on the coffee
well, it is
mug.
Difficult because you misspell your name.
You know,
Thom.
I would turn it sideways so you can see it, but somebody might not like it. ThomRigsby.com. ThomRigsby.com.
All right. THNT.
Yeah,
you got them both? All right, very good. And if I can do anything for you when it comes to real estate, just look me up on revolved.com. Next time, if there is a next time, I want to talk more about the pricing thing on products, because that in itself it's an art.
Oh, yeah.
Pricing your product precisely. It's hard to do, but it can be done. So, all right. Hey, if we can help you in any way, ThomRigsby.com, revolve.com. Leave your comments. Let us know what you think about this. This is show number 3, and I personally feel it's been one of our best.
Yes, I like it. They get better.
It did get a bit fallacious at times.
Oh, I'm never going to live that down.
Yeah. See ya.